so for those of you that don't know, I'm Alex Bornman. I am the orientation and mobility specialist at the reason for our meeting today is to go over some nutrition and fitness things that you can do while you are at home. I am also a certified personal trainer with a nutrition emphasis, so I have some background. So prior to O&M, I was a personal trainer for about 4 years. I am not a nutritionist, but I do have an emphasis in it. So I'm not necessarily considered a nutritionist, but I can give you recommendations. So that's what today's going to be about. To start off with, I kind of wanted to go over the basics of what a meal would look like, kind of just a portion control, because I know that's probably one of the hardest things that people struggle with on a regular basis, is just knowing how much of what to put on their plate. The best way that I have learned to put things in portions is through a hand method. So each meal should consist of about 4 to 5 ounces of protein, a cup of carbohydrates, and about 2 cups of veggies. So that means that about 4 to 5 ounces of protein is typically the size of your palm. So as someone who is blind or visually impaired, the best way that you can measure that is kind of getting a feel for what the size of your palm is, and then using that as your, what's the word I'm looking for? Like a feeling of what it should be when you feel your food on your plate. Your fist, so when you make like a fist, like you're gonna punch somebody, that's about a cup of carbohydrates. So if you were to feel your fist and feel the size of that, that would be about the size of what the carbs should look like on your plate. And we're going to go over some of these ways that the foods that you can use as your protein, carbs, veggies, and stuff like that. And then veggies is about 2 hands. So if you were to like pick up your veggies in your hands and put them all in 2 hands together and cup them, that's about the amount of veggies that you should put on a plate at a time. And then for fats, I would recommend about a thumb size. Or a tablespoon. So fats are very high in calories. And fats are not necessarily good for your body, depending on the kind of fat that you use. So it's very good to be cautious about the amount that you're using on a regular basis. Any questions so far? Great. All right, let's move on. So some basic proteins that you can use is meat. So that means beef, steak, ground beef, those kind of things, lamb, pork, chicken, seafood is another alternative. Beans and legumes, if you are vegetarian or vegan, beans and legumes are a really good alternative for protein, along with dairy products. So that could be some cheeses, some milks. Not all dairy products have a lot of protein in them, but some do. So that's something that you can use. I believe Sean and Kevin went over the label scanner that you can use, seeing AI or some sort of label scanner to read the nutrition facts. Am I correct in that, Sean, Kevin?
Yes, we've talked about that before.
Okay. So that's a good way to know what the amount of each thing you're putting in your body, and also knowing the portion size of that, or the serving size that they recommend on the label. So let's go over some carbs. There's a difference between healthy carbs and unhealthy carbs. So I know there's a lot of different ideas of if carbs are good or bad. And, there's so many different diets nowadays where you can go keto, you're going paleo, gluten-free, all that stuff. So a lot of people do see carbs as an enemy, and I can promise you they are not the enemy. Carbs are good. Enjoy your carbs. Now, that doesn't mean you can't completely cut out carbs out of your diet, but you still need them. Carbs are really important for your digestive system. So the main carbs that are going to be good for your digestive system are whole grains, corns, potatoes, carrots. I know that's a vegetable, but it's actually very high in carbohydrates, so it's a really good alternative to something as heavy as a potato or rice, pasta, bread, that kind of thing. Also, a lot of people don't know, but fruit is a carb. It is very high in sugar, so most fruits are considered a carb, especially bananas. I know that's a huge shock, but bananas are very carb heavy. For anyone who is diabetic, be careful on looking. You really got to know what the sugar and carb content of each carb that you're putting in your body, because they can raise your glycemic index very high and your blood sugars are being produced at a faster rate. So making sure that you're using those label readers to know the nutrition content of those carbs that you're using and eating. There are also a lot of vegetables that are heavier in carbs along with carrots. Those are cauliflower, beets, squash, any sort of squash, green beans and peas, tomatoes, plantains, and then I also said corn and potatoes before. So those are all very, I would say, carb heavy. They're not as high as pastas, rice, oats, whole grains, but they are heavier in the carb area. Any questions so far? I know that was proteins and carbs are the main focus of nutrition. Any questions though? Awesome. All right, so let's go on to veggies. So vegetables are a very big portion of your plate that you're going to be eating on a regular basis when you're making a meal. Veggies are going to fill you up. They're going to make you feel fuller longer. They're going to help your digestive system. They're also packed with so many nutrients, antioxidants. They're also very hearty. They can make things colorful and flavorful, and who doesn't love having some color to their food rather than making it look like a bland white plate. It just looks pretty. Not that we all can see it, but it still looks good when you when someone else is looking at your plate, but still very good to put all those vegetables on your plate. I'm going to name off some vegetables. If anyone wants a list of those vegetables, feel free to reach out and I can send you a list of the most rich and nutrient heavy vegetables, but I'm going to quickly read them off to you. Maybe you'll remember some. So you got the artichokes, asparagus, Brussels sprouts, broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower, carrots, still a vegetable, but is a carb as well. Celery, cucumbers, eggplant, any sort of greens or lettuce, leeks, mushrooms, okra, onions, radish, scallion, sprouts, tomatoes, and squash, like I said before, are a carb, but also a vegetable. Turnips and water chestnuts. So all very filling vegetables that you can use to make things more flavorful and really fill up your stomach and help things move quicker in your digestive system. It's very important that veggies are incorporated in every meal that you eat. So any questions about vegetables or anything you need me to go over in regards to everything that I've gone over so far?
Hey,
Awesome.
Alex,
Yes.
do you want to email me the list and I can email it out in the wrap up?
Yes, I can.
Awesome. Thanks.
You're welcome. All right, now let's go over the whole breakfast idea. I know a lot of people hear, should I eat breakfast? Should I not eat breakfast? How many meals should I have a day? Do I eat every 2 hours? Do I eat 2 meals a day? What's going on? So let's start off with breakfast. So when you break down breakfast, it actually is a 2 words, break, fast. So the last meal that you eat in the day is dinner. Then you go to sleep and you don't eat for about 6 to 8 hours. Some people sleep longer. You can go up from 10 to 12 hours. So you are technically in a fasted state at that point. So breakfast isn't necessarily in the morning. Breakfast is whenever you break your fast. So it is the reason that they say breakfast is the most important meal of the day is because it's the first meal that you're putting into your body at a time, and it's what sets your day up for success. Now, breaking your fast is making sure that you're putting in all the necessary nutrients that your body needs to function throughout the day. So that is the proteins, the carbs, the veggies, and some fats. All those things are necessary to make your body function properly. If you make sure that each meal consists of these necessary nutrients, you're actually going to feel better through the day. Think about if you were to start your day off with a donut, a bagel. You pretty much get hungry after about 2 hours, 3 hours, and you also feel really tired. That's what that crash is that you typically feel around lunchtime or like 1 or 2 o'clock, is because if you start your day off with a carb, you're going to get exhausted. Your glycemic index and blood sugar levels are going to raise super fast. So you're going to feel really good for the first hour or two after you have those carbs first thing in the morning, but then you're going to crash even harder. And then you're going to want more coffee. You're going to want more food to make you feel better. I know I crash hard after something very carb heavy. Also with people with diabetes, that is going to be a major, major thing to start your day off with proteins and fats, veggies, and carbs. So if you are suffering from diabetes or any sort of sugar, hypoglycemia, any kind of thing like that, make sure that you are using proteins and fats to your advantage with the first meal that you have a day. That first meal could be at 12 o'clock. That first meal could be at 2 p.m. It doesn't matter. It just makes sure that first meal is full of all those nutrients that I've said before. Any questions regarding that so far? Okay, cool. So going along with that, so now we're talking about every meal per the day after you start off with your breakfast. It is recommended that there is a difference between the amount of food that a male should eat and a female should eat. As we know, as females, our metabolisms are a lot slower than males. It's just the way that our bodies are working. So males are going to have about 4 to 5 palms a day of protein, about 4 to 6 handfuls of veggies per day, and about 2 to 4 fists of carbs a day. That is going to be what your body needs to function at its best. That doesn't mean that it has to be that on a regular basis, but if you do that on a regular basis, it is going to make your body function at the highest possible level. Now for females, you're going to have about 2 to 3 palms a day of protein, 4 handfuls of veggies, and 1 to 3 fists of carbs a day. Again, that's not what it has to be every single day, but making sure that you are still continuing with that on a regular basis. I know, some days are like, you know what? I just feel like having pizza today. I just feel like eating chips and maybe some nachos. I don't know. But just making sure that regularly those are the things that you're putting into your body. It's okay to enjoy and indulge in things every now and then, but making sure that that's your standard on a regular basis, especially anyone with any sort of diabetes, heart disease, hypoglycemia, any sort of thyroid issues, making sure that those are the necessary things that they're using on a regular basis. Any questions? I'm going to keep asking because I know this is a lot of information that people are not aware of or anything. So I'm going to keep continuing to ask for questions. Or, oh, I see that Anthony has a question. How do I unmute? Oh, there we go.
Hi, Alex. It's Anthony. Hi, everybody. I do have a question regarding fiber.
Yes.
Fiber is important. The other thing too is if you're a diabetic like myself, and if you go for a walk, you're going to go exercise. It's very important that you make sure you check your blood sugar reading, because doing your exercise or walk, you may tend to run low, and you may not realize it.
Yeah. So
Especially if you're doing maybe some yard work around the house or something.
Mhm. Yeah, so making sure that that's also in regards to setting yourself up for success the first meal. It's always important for someone who has those crashes to always have a snack on hand that has the ratios of perfect protein, carbs, sugars, and fats dependent on what you're struggling with. Having that snack on hand always, but starting your day off with the most important nutrient-rich foods with all the correct portions is going to be what's best, and hopefully will minimize any sort of stress that you can have on your body when you're exercising. Does that help?
Yes, Alex, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, so moving on. I'm going to make some kind of perspective on eating foods and the amount of portions that we're looking at. So if we were to look at two different veggies, whether that's going to be potatoes and broccoli, both are considered a vegetable, but both have a very different calorie, fat, carb, protein content. So when we look at a half a cup of potatoes versus a half a cup of broccoli, a half a cup of potatoes is about 75 calories and 15 grams of carbs. But when we go to broccoli, a half a cup of broccoli is about 25 calories and 5 grams of carbs. So when we're thinking about filling up our body with foods, you can have 3 times the amount of broccoli that you can of potatoes, and you're gonna be having the same amount of calories and carbs in the end. Now think about filling up our body with that. So if we have 3 times the amount of broccoli that we do potatoes, you're gonna feel very, very full. So that's actually gonna stop you from eating too much of other things, whether of bad things or wanting more sweets after. So if you fill your body up in your meal with the correct things, you're not gonna want those other things because you're gonna be too full to put them in your body. That's also, along with Anthony's question of fiber, that puts a lot extra fiber in your body to make sure that your digestive tract is working properly. Another thing is when we're looking at sweets, so people that have a sweet tooth, you look at chocolate. You could have like 2 squares of chocolate. That's a lot of sugar. Or you could have a whole cup of strawberries, blueberries, which has the same equivalent amount of sugars and sweetness that you may be craving in a different form. And you're actually getting antioxidants with that. You're getting some hydration with that. All that chocolate does not have that water content in it. So now you're getting a lot more benefits with a lot more food.